Welcome to my channel, everyone, and today we're going to be reacting to WesHammer's 10 hilariously crazy orc weapons. And let's go ahead and get right into it, because I am excited about this.
This video is brought to you by Purple War. The
Oh,
orcs in the 40k
wrong button.
universe are more complicated than people tend to give them credit for. On one hand, they're absolutely terrifying. They're basically brutality incarnate. But on the other hand, are absolutely freaking hilarious. And for a fact,
That's actually a really great analogy for them.
That's unfairly all too often portrayed as being pretty stupid. Some of these inventions are
I want that. That backpack right there, man. Imagine how many PlayStations, PS5s. Can't believe I just called it a PlayStation. Boomer. Anyways, how many PCs you can power that thing, man? Charge your Steam Deck, everything.
downright ingenious. Now, the orcs are able to make literally anything into a weapon, and this is due to two different reasons. The first,
Why I keep forgetting to do this. Anyways, so of course, all credit goes to WesHammer. Please go subscribe to his channel, support him and all the Warhammer 40k content creators out there. And of course, this is his video, so I did nothing other than react, right?
first is that the orcs have a really peculiar psychic ability that allows them to manifest their beliefs into reality. So even if by all accounts a machine shouldn't work, if the orcs believe it does, then it does. This is an ability that tends to get over-exaggerated
Yeah, I was gonna say,
in the community.
I think I kind of over exaggerated there. I said anything, he can create anything and all that in the short I did, so I do apologize for that.
And it does have its limitations. But it
So I was
nonetheless
wrong.
does result in a lot of really interesting creations.
Somewhat.
Second, and this one's more of a theory and isn't exactly proven, is that a lot of times their invention should work because they literally do. It's believed that there's some leftover knowledge in the orc's subconscious, placed there by their creators known as the Old Ones 60 million years ago. This knowledge would
The Brain Boys.
give the orcs an innate understanding of science and engineering, even if it's kind of rooted in their subconscious and on the surface level they don't even really seem to understand it themselves. It seems like anything that the orcs set their mind to, they're able to manifest into reality. And since the orcs
By
literally
far,
don't
they
care
have
about
some of the
fighting,
best
this tends to
aesthetic.
take the form
You know,
of
they
lots
have
of
that,
really
like,
bizarre weapons.
Mad
Some
Max,
force field generator
rustic
and
feel to
rerouting
it,
that
you know?
protective
I
energy
like that a
to
lot.
instead come out of the barrel of a gun that fires bubbles that explode on impact. Or in another instance, repurposing a teleporter to cause their enemies to disappear and rematerialize at random, most often inside of a rock or thousands of feet up in the air. Their technology is hilarious, bizarre, and honestly,
Unlimited
effective on the battlefield.
power.
Trying to wrap my mind around how an army
Yeah.
would even prepare to fight
Terrible at
is a
doing accents
monumentous task.
and
The old saying of
voiceovers.
be prepared for anything is taken far too literally here. So today we're going to deep dive 10 of the strangest and most ridiculous weapons the orcs have ever created. But before we get into that,
Let's
here's a quick
go.
word from this video's sponsor. Purple War is an upcoming strategy game that, according to the developers,
There you
takes
guys go.
inspiration from games like StarCraft and Warcraft 3. Which, I mean, yeah, just by looking at the footage, I can clearly see that they took a lot of inspiration from Warcraft 3 specifically.
I didn't even,
But
what?
you know what? Considering the state of Blizzard these days and what they're doing with their beloved franchises, I'm actually totally okay with
So,
this, as I played the hell out of Warcraft 3 back in the day.
I
and
like
seeing
to
the game
let
captures that
their
feeling
ads
that
play.
isn't made specifically by Blizzard is honestly a pretty big
Not
selling point.
100% sure
Now,
if
to the
it's...
developers, Purple War's gameplay is
I'm sure
intuitive, easy to learn,
it might
and
still be going.
fast-paced, and has awesome
Who
multiplayer
knows?
modes
I
that
think
support
it's
up to 8 players.
a few
The game
months
has a
old.
strong emphasis on base building and resource gathering. Purple War looks like a lot of fun, and there really hasn't been a lot of RTS
I'm-
games released in the last few years. I feel like it's a genre that's
I'm alright at RTSs. I never really played them up until Dawn of War a few months ago. And boy, do I get my butt kicked on that game. And that's on normal. So, yeah. I don't want to embarrass myself.
Apparently the Purple War team is preparing a special event in appreciation for all of their playtesters.
My thing is
So
like
keep
that
an eye on their Steam
they
page
come
and
at you
all their
quick,
socials for
you
recent
know,
updates.
in Dawn of
Big
War.
thank you to the Purple War team for
So
sponsoring this video and
I
let's get
still
into
am
it.
trying to learn
Number
strategies how to
2,
deal with
the
that.
Orc Rock. So full transparency, the Orc Rock is
So those look like those little spitballs that you had. I don't know if you guys ever did this. You take a rubber band and just right in the back of the teacher's head or something. That's what those look like. Because we would always like add a bunch of crap onto it and everything. We were terrible, okay? There's a reason why we're called Generation X, okay?
probably my favorite invention on this list. It's what made me fall in love with the Orks so many years ago. You see, this thing is exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant rock with a bunch of orc shit glued all over it. But it's not just a rock. It's also a spaceship. You see, the Orks will take an asteroid and hollow out a big chunk of it so they can live inside of it. Then they'll load it up with as many guns as they can find. The rock itself has no warp drive, and thus it's incapable of warp travel. Now, sometimes it has a bunch of rocket thrusters glued randomly across its surface, allowing it to sort of control how it moves. But if I'm being honest, it mostly just floats around in the void of space.
Can I have it?
From star system to star system,
please?
Looking for more enemies to crump.
I'll take it, man.
A bunch of orcs careening randomly through space, shouting insults at any other ships that happen to pass them by, brings me endless amounts of joy.
You know, I could see how, like what Bricky said, that all orc players, you know, they're good sports. You know, because they're probably always just having fun, you know, with their orc armies.
Now, some pretty clever orc war bosses will chain the rocks to the undersides of their ships, and when their fleets attempt to invade a world, all of the ships will release the rocks that will then come barreling down on the planet as a quite literal weaponized meteorite. Now, the orc rocks are far more...
How is Gothic? What, oh my goodness, I think I said that right. Battle Armada? Gothic? Something like that? Oh my goodness. Something Fleet Gothic, about the Fleet Gothic. Anyways, I heard that was good, so I might have to try that out. I know it's like an RTS based game, but still, it's not that I don't like RTSs. It's just I suck at them. I never really got into them because of that.
Hundreds of these rocks will rain down upon a planet,
except for Warcraft 2. Well, and Warcraft 3 a little bit, but anyways.
And cause huge tidal waves, while others will crash.
I was a wee boy back when Warcraft 2 came out.
And it's also a pretty big bonus that these rocks are full of orcs, itching to get stuck in a fight. Now, a lot of times the rocks will end up exploding on impact, destroying their angry green payload. But other times, the orcs inside will survive.
Nice big old fart gas.
The rocks that do manage to survive the impact can serve as a fortified position.
Dang, so those are actual, like, meteorites and all that. Yikes, imagine that hitting your ship, man. That will definitely do damage. I don't care how fortified your ships are and how much force fields and all that. Or I guess shields I should call it. Yeah, that's doing damage.
For the orcs to hold. And it's honestly kind of genius. This thing is a spaceship, an ordnance weapon, a troop drop pod.
Hopefully nobody messaged me on Discord.
The only major downside to the
Darn it.
Is that
always forget to turn that off.
It's kind of a one-way trip. There's no way for the orcs to get it back in orbit. So they either stay on the planet.
Like, look at that, man. That is just cool. They definitely got a cool look.
They can and leave the rock behind. Only the orcs could come up with the stupidest design ever, and it somehow manages to be kind of incredible.
Right.
The rocket hammer.
That is 100% true, even though they are filthy Xenos.
Okay, so the rocket hammer is exactly what it sounds like. It's a stick with a rocket that's been duct taped to the end of it. These things are most commonly associated with the tank busters, some wild and crazy orcs whose primal instinct to hunt the biggest beast has adapted to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium in a very peculiar way. They hunt down tanks nowadays instead. Landing a well-placed shot or slamming a rocket hammer into the side of a vehicle and causing it to detonate is a feeling like no other to these guys.
Dude, I'd be flipping all across with the rocket hammer. You should see me with just a sledgehammer.
Totally worth the risk they put themselves in. To the tank busters,
I work out, but my I ain't that big, even though I do work out.
The boys celebrate by getting quote-unquote tanked up, where they devour the crew of the destroyed vehicle and get drunk on its engine oil. The rocket hammer is the most primitive version of orc tank hunting weapons, and has existed in their culture since they first began using explosives. Although admittedly, back in the days of the Orks, they were probably much more sophisticated weapons. Now interestingly, the lore of the rocket hammer says that they are used by older tank busters most of all. They don't trust any of that newfound fancy rocket thruster technology. The Orks version of boomers remember the old ways.
It definitely sounds like it.
Where all you needed was a stick and some heavy explosives to do some right good killing. Number 8. The Teleblaster.
That sounds like straight up guerrilla warfare.
So, like most of the stuff on this list, the Teleblaster is pretty bizarre. But its underlying technology makes a lot of sense for the Orks. You see, the Orks love fighting more than anything else in the universe. And if an Ork is smart enough to figure it out, they can turn basically anything
They be crumpin'.
into a functioning weapon. The Teleblaster is a weaponized teleporter, originally invented by an Ork mech boy known as Orkimedes. When the gun is fired, the target will be folded into a bubble of space-time, disappearing and reappearing in a random location a short distance away.
Gotta love it.
High up in the air or inside of a nearby rock. The gun can be incredibly unpredictable, but that's one of its main strengths. It causes an enormous amount of confusion within the enemy ranks, as their soldiers just start teleporting all over the place at random. Sometimes rather harmlessly 2 feet to the left, and other times
Hey, it looks like my uncle.
right, but inside of their friend's
Exactly
chest.
like him.
I've seen enough sci-fi horror movies to
Sorry,
know
Uncle,
that
if you're
teleporter
watching.
accidents are truly terrifying. And yet somehow the Orks found a way to turn that into a gun. And although mere you may find the results truly horrifying, the Orks find it hilarious. Number 7, the Splatter Cannon. Now, this is an old one that we haven't seen the Orks use in
Them names, man.
hasn't been a playable model in
Them
years.
names.
You see, the Splatter Cannon is a piece of artillery that fires a very weird shell.
You know, you would think it's like, well, man, that's old school, but not to the Orks.
Known as a splatter shell. The shell itself consists of a whole bunch of rockets that have been attached to each other by a long razor-sharp chain. With
Is that wood? Yeah, that would be.
large metal ball at the end of it. Now, normally these chains are made out of some type of razor wire or covered in spikes, depending on the Ork who made it. When the cannon is fired, the chain spreads out in a wide arc and can cut down a large amount of infantry as it passes through them. But here's where things get interesting. Shortly after it lands, one of the rockets will ignite, causing the serrated ball and chain to spin around wildly within enemy ranks. Each of
Yikes.
these rockets are on a timer, and as one begins to lose fuel,
That would probably eat right through you, man. Especially with that velocity, that would just, it would hurt for like 1.5 seconds. And then you would be dead, of course. But anyways, crazy.
another one will kick on, sending it spiraling in a different direction. Its erratic and unpredictable movements can decimate enemy foot soldiers and does a pretty good job at disrupting unit formations. And although the ammunition of the splatter cannon is downright medieval, I gotta admit,
I think it would be cool to have, I don't know, if I could talk. Anyways, I don't know if that's in the tabletop or not, but that would be cool, man, if you could do like moves like that. Rocket razor wire.
it's pretty inventive and actually really cool. And I truly hope that someday Games Workshop will bring this thing back to the tabletop game. Number 6,
Why did they take it out? That thing's kind of cool.
bomb squigs. Now you might not know
Squigs.
this by looking at them, but squigs are actually a subspecies.
I used to
of
know
orc whose
somebody we used to call
evolutionary path has
squigs.
taken them in a completely different direction. They're little more than a feral beast, and basically just a big angry.
He was
guy
a-
with legs. And the orcs
he was a little
absolutely
guy.
love
He
these
was cool,
guys.
though.
Apparently
He was
they make
funny.
Great pets, and also taste really good. Now, one particular use of squigs is as what is known as a bomb squig. You see, squigs have a tendency to chase down anything that moves and try to eat it. So some genius orc got the idea to strap a whole bunch of bombs to it and send it after tanks. Bomb squigs have been observed carrying
Smart.
all manner of different types of explosives, from pressure mines to
Well,
tank buster bombs.
to an
And
extent.
even just big shells from some of their cannons. But most of the time, the bomb squigs just have a whole bunch of grenades that have been duct taped to their body. When the squig is released, it will go careening after the nearest vehicle and causes a massive explosion when it catches up to it and tries to latch on. Now, every now and then, the squig will get confused and chases after a friendly orc tank instead. Now, it's technically a setback when the bomb squig accidentally blows up an orc truck. But counterpoint, the orc
That would be a sight to see. It's all going, and all of a sudden it turns around and does the squirrel meme. And anyways, sorry.
find this freaking hilarious, so it's not a complete waste. Number 5, lift-a-dropper technology.
Lift a
There's
drop.
actually a large array of different weapons that use what the orcs call lift-a-dropper technology. These include the classic lift-a-dropper, the tractor cannon, and the smasher gun. My personal
Almost
favorite
looks
of which
like
is
a
the
mini
Magnum,
CERN.
which I don't think is canon anymore, but just look at this old model. It's absolutely beautifully stupid and gets the idea across
Right.
pretty well. The lift-a-dropper is a large magno tractor.
If it's not, I bet you that you're gonna be spending a pretty penny to get those.
Tractor beam, powered powered by an atom smasher reactor. It projects a magnetic field that can latch onto heavy objects or enemy vehicles and fling them around as if they were weightless. Most often, this will take the form of picking up an enemy tank and dropping it on the enemy troops, but it can also be used to grab large rocks or other.
I heard that, I don't know, I get mixed opinions on that game, so I haven't gotten into Dawn of War 2 or 3 just yet, because I'm one of those people where I gotta finish the first game first, you know. I'm still on mission 6, because I suck. Anyways.
Their debris and fling it around at enemy fortifications. And I know this weapon sounds pretty silly, but it can be absolutely devastating and wreaks havoc across the battlefield. Now, the tractor cannon is another weapon that utilizes the same technology, but it normally takes the form of an anti-aircraft cannon. The magnetic beam it fires attempts to latch onto an enemy aircraft, and once it's got a hold of it, it'll violently twist downward and smash the plane into the ground. And the Orks absolutely love these guns, and I can kind of get why. They seem like a lot of...
We used to have so much fun on those little spindles, those big ones, being drunk. And you probably know what happens next. Anyways, that we would take those, you know, four-wheelers, or you had those doom buggies that we had. Oh man, why does adulthood suck?
Understand this. If you're playing through the campaign and you're using any other gun besides the gravity gun, what are you even doing? Number 4, the Squig Catapult.
Nice.
Another weapon in the Orks arsenal that's name spells out exactly
I like it.
The Squig Catapult is a catapult that fires squigs at the enemy, but not just any squig. You see, squigs are an incredibly varied species with hundreds of different creatures.
Dude, that looks like a swollen tongue right there, like you just bit that some gun.
There are big squigs, small squigs, red squigs, blue squigs, and even hair squigs. One particular species of squig is what is known as a buzzer squig. You can think of it like a big, angry, carnivorous bee with a whole bunch of big teeth.
Screw that, I hate bees, man.
Fires a buzzer squig hive, or a sealed pot containing an entire buzzer squig swarm. And depending on the
I think a lot of it comes from because my mom used to, or not used to, she is allergic to bees and stuff. So she'd always freak out or whatever, so I grew up just completely freaking out. Plus, what didn't help is I antagonized the hive and started running, right? And this queen, the queen herself came up and went, and boom, got me right in my eye. That thing was swollen. Whew. Anyways.
Hive size, it can contain dozens, if not hundreds, of buzzer squigs. When fired, the squig pot goes careening through the air and smashes in enemy formations, unleashing its angry, buzzing payload. The buzzer squigs become enraged and swarm over any nearby creatures they can find.
Screw
like a
that.
swarm of pissed-off flying piranhas, they rip and tear at enemy infantry.
I might go up missing in that battle.
As apparently the algae that flows in the Orks
MIA.
tastes absolutely disgusting to them. Now these things are really difficult to deal with, and unless a unit has some type of flamer weapon, they'll probably stick around for a while. So yes, the Orks
salamanders
fire hives of bees at their enemies. And despite how technologically advanced every species in the 41st millennium seemingly is, this primitive Orkish technology...
Even though Deathfire didn't do a good job portraying them, in my opinion. Oh man, I wish I never read that book, to be honest with you.
Number 3, the Bubble Chukka.
You know, that book makes you like rethink your salamander choice, let's just say. But I'm sticking with them.
Teleporters being weaponized by the Orks, I think it's clear that their ingenuity knows no bounds, and they are definitely the smartest of all species to have ever existed. The Bubble Chukka is another example of peak Ork engineering. It's force field technology turned into a bizarre but devastating gun. You see, the Bubble Chukka uses a force field generator, but instead of the force field wrapping around the Ork in order to protect him, it's rerouted through the gun, and its energy is split into multiple bubbles. The gun can be set to several modes and
electrified
produce a wide
bubbles.
array of different bubbles. The bubbles can vary wildly in size, shape, and power, some of them being massive and incredibly stable, slamming into enemy vehicles like a wrecking ball. Or the gun can be set to a rapid-fire mode and fire out a massive wave of smaller bubbles that are relatively unstable and burst upon impact, each one functioning like a small force grenade. Now sometimes the bubble...
How are they not taking over the galaxy, you know? Jeez.
Fire out incredibly quickly and go for a pretty long range, Well, other times, it's like a shower of bubbles that slowly float down to the ground, exploding on impact. It's definitely a pretty bizarre weapon, but it's ultimately really effective. And it's pretty difficult to fight against an enemy that's literally firing bubbles at you. Like, how do
I can
you
see
even
why it's
fight
effective.
that? Number 2, the shock attack gun. So the shock attack gun is probably the most famous of the weird orc weapons. The gun generates a whole host of effects that are incredibly random and also super devastating. When fired, the gun generates a force field through the warp, creating 2 portals.
That thing is like his size. Holy cow.
One
I
directly
want
in
it.
front of the gun, and
Can I
another
have it,
roughly in the
please?
location that
Games
it is being
Workshop.
aimed. The orc controlling the gun then utilizes a vacuum type attachment to
Oh.
suck up a bunch of Gretchen and Snotlings.
That's a
Basically
wedgie and a
tiny,
half.
weedy, orc-like creatures that are more or less just sentient
Them
punching bags
cheeks.
of the orcs. The Gretchen are then fired
Them
out of the
boys
gun
and them
through the
cheeks.
first portal. What happens next is pretty weird. You see, the Gretchen are being fired through the warp, which in the 40k universe is often depicted as hell itself. They're sent on their journey with no protection and witness
I should
so
say
many
duh
untold
boys
horrors
before
and
I get
terrifying
roasted.
nightmares that they go absolutely batshit crazy. And time gets all weird in the warp. So in the physical universe, this journey may only take half a second. But for all we know, the Gretchen could have been in hell for 1,000,000 years. After the journey is complete, the Gretchen rematerialize
Yikes.
out of the second portal. And they come out absolutely mad, kicking and screaming and biting and slashing at anything in their immediate vicinity.
They are
terrified out of
feral,
their tiny
that's
little
for sure.
minds. And the gun itself is pretty big and clunky. And when it's being fired is really just
Zom.
still. So the portal has a tendency to drift
Is what
around.
they are.
It's not uncommon for the Gretchens to materialize inside of the bodies of enemy combatants, frantically
Good old Left 4 Dead 2, right? Oh my goodness. Anyways. Oh wow, everything's making noises.
ripping and bursting their way through the unlucky troopers. Other times, they'll materialize inside of a tank and massacre the crew. There's honestly no telling
Got
what's
charge
going to happen
yet.
when the gun is fired. Its effects are incredibly unpredictable. Sometimes all that manages to come out of the second portal
You get the
is a
raw
tidal
footage
wave
here,
of
guys.
blood and guts and bone shrapnel. Other times, the Gretchen materialize a mile high up into the air and rain down on the enemy, bursting on impact. And sometimes the second portal grows incredibly
That's me on Windows. For some reason, I liked doing that when I was little.
unstable and opens up a black hole into the warp, sucking everything in the vicinity inside. Needless to say, the orcs think it's a lot
That's a
of fun,
Cthulhu
but
hole.
it's also just a little bit terrifying. Number 1, the Orc Attack Moon. So the Orc Attack
Oh,
Moon is much
jeez.
like the Orc Rock
A whole
that we
moon, huh?
discussed earlier in the video. However, it's on a simply much more massive scale. You see, when it was originally created,
Nice.
it started off as any old regular Orc Rock, but then more and more stuff kept getting added to it.
Gotta
Whether
do what
that
you
be
gotta
other
do.
asteroids, small planetoids, or even moons. By the time it was done, it was absolutely gigantic.
Jeez, man. Can you imagine just seeing that right there? you know that would impact the planet that you're on for sure. That would not be good. I mean, you got gravity falling apart. I mean, all that stuff, right?
In scale, bristling with weapons, and it even housed its own battle fleet. The orcs that controlled it were somehow able to travel faster than the speed of light without using the warp, by traveling through a pocket dimension. And just before the attack moon would arrive, a whole host of strange gravitational phenomena would begin to appear across the planet's surface, and the moon could be
I used to call those the bubble fart multiverse dimensions or whatever.
seen
Anyways,
flickering in and out of existence.
stupid.
Each flicker ramping up the strange gravitational effects. When the moon did finally appear, it would materialize closer to a planet than the laws of physics should allow. And the sudden arrival of such a massive planetoid next to a world would wreak absolute havoc, causing a whole host of natural disasters, from tidal waves to devastating earthquakes. The moon would open its great mouth, and its roar could be heard on the surface below.
Did you guys, I think it was like a few years ago, there was these clouds in New York that looked like tidal waves or whatever? That was crazy.
Heralding the arrival of the massive orc known as the Beast. The fleet of orc ships would then charge out of the mouth and attack the planet.
Don't know
The
why
Orcs
that reminded me
finally
of
managed
that.
to achieve victory, and the world had been completely devastated. The orcs on the planet's surface would construct a gravity well-like facility. Now this would begin the process of literally tearing the planet apart, and the subsequent chunks would then be added to the moon increasing its size even further before it moved on to its next target. Now, what's really scary about the attack moon is that it was just a prototype, and the Orks that were led by the Great Beast had planned on making many more of them. They were, however, eventually defeated, and since Orks tend to get smarter the more of them are around, with the Beast's fleet dispersed, the Orks seem to have lost the ability to replicate the advanced technology needed to create an attack moon. So hopefully the galaxy will never see another one of these things. But with Thraka ramping up his Great Wog, it's very possible they may make a return. And that was 10 of the craziest and wildest orc weapons I could find. Which one was your favorite on this list, and which one do you think would be most effective in battle? Would you rather use a shock attack gun and throw goblins through hell at your enemies? Or do you prefer something a lot less complicated like the good old-fashioned rocket hammer? Let me know down in the comments below. And also let me know if there's any orc weapons.
You gotta go with the shock, man. Anything with electricity, man, is gonna do some devastation no matter what. It'll get through shields and all that, so you might as well go with the electricity. Especially those big old electric bubbles.
That I missed that you think should have been on this list. Thanks again to my patrons for supporting the content that I make, and if you'd like to help me make more videos like this, consider checking me out on Patreon. Link in the description. And that's it. That's all I had to say about the Orks. I'll catch you in the next one.
We are going to end it there. So thank you guys for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day.